Okay, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, everybody. You can all hear clearly? Okay, okay. So, welcome. This is Krishna Dasa. Today we are going to do 6.18 to 6.23. So, before we begin, let me say the prayers to Guru and God. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalake Chakshuru Militamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So I will play the shlokas. Please try to follow.
Yada viniyatam chittamatmanyevavatiष्ठते निःस्पृहः सर्वकामेभ्यो युक्त इत्युच्यते तदा यथा दीपो निवातस्थो नेङ्गते सोपमा स्मृता योगिनो यतचित्तस्य युञ्जतो योगमात्मनः यत्रो परमते चित्तं निरुद्धं योगसेवया यत्र चैवात्मनात्मानं पश्यन्नात्मनि तुष्यति सुखमात्यन्तिकं यत्तद्बुद्धिग्राह्यमतीन्द्रियम् वेत्ति यत्र न चैवायं स्थितश्चलति तत्त्वतः यं लब्ध्वा चापरं लाभं मन्यते नाधिकं ततः यस्मिन् स्थितो न दुःखेन गुरुणापि विचाल्यते तं विद्या दुःखसंयोगवियोगं योगसंज्ञितम् स निश्चयेन योक्तव्यो योगो निर्विण्णचेतसा.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Smita ji, you can read.
Sure. Thank you, Guruji. 6.18. When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be well established in yoga. 6.19. As a lamp in a windless place does not waver, so the transcendentalist whose mind is controlled remains always steady in his meditation on the transcendent self. 22 to 23. In the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Guruji.
So Shri Krishna here, he is talking about, there is a term Krishna is using, which is a very technical, important term. It is called yuktaha. So we can say that the mind is in a state of yuktaha, which means established in yoga, when it becomes fixed and focused exclusively on the Atman. So Krishna uses the word chitta to talk about the mind. So he says that when the chitta becomes fixed and focused exclusively on the Atman, that is when we can say it is in a state of yuktaha. See, we already discussed that controlling our desires is the first step. So what do we mean by controlling the desire? Like, the first step is, like we discussed, sama and dhamma. Like, first you are going to do external control. In other words, let us say your mind is all the time thinking of, eating sweets or, drinking things and whatever, right? So the first step is we are going to do a physical control where we are going to moderate. We are going to tell ourselves it is not good. We shouldn't be running behind this. But what happens? Although you are physically trying to restrain, your mind is still on it. So that is what is called as cravings. And as long as you have the craving, you are still not there. The mind is still not in the state of yukta. So we have to focus on that as well. So how do we do that? It works both ways. When we have got rid of desires, in other words, sama dhamma, when we have done, then we are able to focus on Atma, and vice versa. The more we try to focus on Atman, the more our mind will automatically get away from these compulsive desires. They feed into each other. It's a very beautiful concept here. And according to Krishna, once we reach the state, once the mind is in yuktaha state, then none of these desires will bother us anymore. That is a state where we are protected. We have to reach that state. So in the Katha Upanishad, there is a very profound dialogue between young Nachiketa and Yama. I think we discussed this story earlier, where Nachiketa has this discussion with Lord Yama, who is the Lord of Death. And in that discussion, there is a verse which I picked. It says, Atmanam ratitham viddhi shariram ratamevatu buddhim tu saratim viddhi manah pragrahamevacha. What it means is, know that the Atman is like the Lord of the chariot. The body is just the chariot. The intelligence is the driver. And the mind is like the reins. See, this is the photo you will see on most popular Bhagavad Gita versions, where Krishna is sitting on a chariot. There are a lot of horses and he's holding the reins. So there is a very deep philosophical meaning to all of that. And that is what is coming out in these lessons that we are reading now. And even in Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a concept which speaks of devotion as a means of achieving union with the divine. So Bhagavatam says that the supreme dharma for all humanity is that by which they can develop devotional service into the transcendental Lord. Such service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. What is it saying? Srimad Bhagavatam says that our supreme dharma, the supreme dharma, supreme goal is to develop that devotion and do devotional service to the Lord. That must be the ultimate goal. And not just devotional service. That devotional service has to be unmotivated. It shouldn't be a business transaction. Like if I'm devoted, then I will get a promotion, or if I'm devoted, my business will do well. It shouldn't be like that. There is no harm in asking God for everything. That is okay. But we should also have that love for God without any motivation. And it has to be uninterrupted. See, the consistency comes here also. How many times we have spoken about it already? So it's so important. So these verses, they beautifully explain how to go towards the state of yukta, which is most important for realizing the Atman. And then Krishna is giving a very beautiful analogy. He is talking about a lamp. I don't know how many of you remember, at least in my generation we remember, but the younger ones, I don't know. Ekansh, have you ever seen a lantern that we have used in olden days? Okay.
Yes, Guruji, in museum.
Museum, okay. I've seen it in my home itself. I used to live in a village. And so if you see the lanterns have a glass kind of a container, and inside that you have the lamp. But if you see the lamp, the flame doesn't flicker inside a lantern because it is protected by that glass. If the lamp was just outside, it will flicker violently and sometimes even blow away, right? So Krishna is saying, just like that, when the mind reaches a state of yuktaha, it is like that protection that the lantern has. He says, then at that point onwards, you will be like that flame which will not flicker, no matter how much the wind is there. So that is a very beautiful analogy.
Ekansh can see here, I have it.
Yes. That is a nice lamp. Thank you, Asha ji.
Thank you.
So see, back in the second chapter, Krishna had said that when we discard all selfish desires and cravings of the senses, and once we become satisfied in the realization of the self, Krishna said such a person is called as Stita Pragya. And now here Krishna is saying, reiterating the same thing. He's saying when you are in that state, you are able to see the self by the self. So this was back in chapter 2. I don't know how many of you remember. It was chapter 2, verse 55. Ashaji, you want to read that? 2.55?
Yes, Guruji. Shri Bhagavan Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan atmannevatmana tushtha stita pragyasta dochyate. And the meaning is, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O Partha, when a man gives up all desire, sense gratification, which arise from mental contraction, and when his mind, thus purified, finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. So the term self-realization means just that. That is what is the meaning of self-realization. So when we realize ourselves, we become satisfied and content. And that is the goal of yoga. So there is another Upanishad called Chandogya Upanishad. Lakshmi ji is here? Oh, yes, Lakshmi ji is here. So in the Chandogya Upanishad also there is this stanza that says, Tat Tvamasi. Very, very powerful statement. Literally it means you are that, but the true essence basically means we are not separate from the ultimate reality. So because we are not separate from that ultimate reality, we have to realize ourselves. Because ourself and the Supreme Self, they are not really separate. That is why we have to really endeavor to understand this self. See, in a lot of places there is this teaching about the need to control the senses. You know why? I will give you a very logical reason why we should control the senses. Okay, because we just said that self-realization is the ultimate goal. We just said that realizing the Atman is the ultimate goal. And earlier Krishna already explained that the Atman, which is the soul, you cannot see it, you cannot touch it, you cannot taste it, you cannot smell it. In other words, you can only realize it. You cannot touch, see, smell or taste. But if you cannot do any of those things, then what is the point of the senses? Because you need the senses only to touch, smell, taste and all of that. But your goal is self-realization, and the self cannot be touched, smelt or anything. So that means the sense is of no use if your goal is self-realization. In fact, it becomes a distraction, because then the senses are all the time taking you towards things that you can touch and smell, which is away from the real goal of self-realization. That is the reason they say that you have to control the senses. It is not about morality. It is not that just because you have some sensory pleasures, it doesn't make you a sinful person. It is just that it is going to take you away. It is going to make the path longer and harder for you towards self-realization, and self-realization has to be the ultimate goal. That is something that we have to have a conviction about. And Krishna is giving an assurance also. Krishna is saying, if we try, if we work towards it, and if we get our mind towards the state of yuktaha, he says then even the heaviest of sorrows will not disturb us. No matter what calamities happen, they will not impact us. Don't we want to be in such a empowering state where it doesn't matter what is happening, it is not impacting us? And Krishna is telling us how to reach that state. So it's a very, very beautiful, profound, practical set of lessons here. Another thing we should understand, this will all fall in place. We are talking about many different things, but they will all fall in place. So Bhagavan is like light, and Maya is like darkness, which is trying to take us away from light. But we know that darkness can never overpower light. In one of the previous sessions, we spoke about Ramakrishna as an example, where Ramakrishna said that if there is a cave which is dark and which has been dark for say 100 years, does it matter? The moment you light a candle, the darkness is going to go away. It doesn't matter how dark it was or how long it was dark. So in other words, darkness can never overpower light. Light will always win. And what is light here? For us, in this context, light is that self-realization. So if we go towards self-realization, then none of the darkness will matter. There is darkness, accepted, agreed. But you don't have to fight darkness. You cannot sit in a dark cave and keep saying, I'm not going to be afraid of darkness, I'm going to fight the darkness, I'm going to learn to see in the darkness. Okay, but all you have to do is light a candle. The darkness goes away. Just like that, Krishna is saying all you have to do is reach the state of yuktaha, go towards self-realization, and all the darkness of the world will not bother you anymore. For you the darkness won't exist. Beautiful, profound. And then Krishna is teaching us some technical aspects about Maya, which is also very important. That is why we spoke about darkness and light here. And we study about Maya just from the concept of how to understand what is going on, how to understand what we need to avoid, and how to understand what Maya is and how it distracts us. So let us spend some time understanding Maya. See, the first thing is, Maya is a Sanskrit word and it is derived from the root ma. In Sanskrit, it is ma is for measure. So, in other words, Maya is what is used to divide and measure. Why do we have to divide and measure? Now tell me something. We all say that the God or Lord is infinite. But how do you measure infinite? Can you measure infinite? The very fact that it is infinite means it is immeasurable. Correct? So then you need a unique technique in order to measure, and that technique is Maya. Now this is very important. I'll tell you, I'll try to simplify it. This concept is a little complicated. It is part of Jnana Yoga or Sankhya Yoga, however you call it. And it is about understanding how the universe was created or how everything is manifested. Okay, so let us approach it very logically rather than technically, so that it makes more sense and it is more interesting. So we know that the spirit is the essence of God, Bhagavan, that is spirit. And we know that the spirit is endless, eternal, timeless, everything. And we also know that the spirit is absolute. Correct? Now, if the spirit has to manifest something, if the spirit has to create, let us say, an universe, now can it create something which is separate from itself? In other words, can the spirit create another spirit? I mean, it is kind of contradictory, because in other words, then you are going to say that there are two absolutes. If I am absolute, and if I create another absolute, then it is a contradiction, because there cannot be two absolutes. Absolute means there is only one, right? You see the problem. So in other words, the spirit cannot create something different from itself. So what has to happen? It has to create something that appears to be different from itself. The spirit has to manifest something that gives an illusion of being separate. But it is not really separate, because as we just discussed, you cannot have two spirits. You cannot have two absolutes. And once you say something is infinite, that means it has to encompass everything, right? Now you cannot say this is infinite and there is something outside the infinite. Then the earlier thing was not infinite really, because you are saying that there was something outside of it, right? You see where we are coming. So this is a very logical way to understand what the challenge that God faces, or what even Bhagavan faces a challenge. This is a challenge Bhagavan faces. How do I create something which is not different but looks different? That is how the game of the universe can carry on, right? Like Sujata or Rajesh or Suchita, or you have to feel like you are Sujata, Rajesh. You have to feel like you are Suchita or Smita or whatever. You have to feel that way. But the truth is, you are not really separate. You are not really like there is no such thing as Sujata in the grand scheme of things, because it is the same spirit. Everything is a part of that. It is like a finger saying, you give a name to a finger and it identifies itself with that name, but you know that that's not the ultimate truth. At the end of the day, it is part of you. Correct? So, that is why we use the term Maya. Maya is measure and divide. So, Krishna says, I manifest everything using my power of Yoga Maya. What he means is, I use this Yoga Maya which helps divide and measure the spirit itself and divide it and provide this illusion of many separate entities, separate manifested entities. Is this clear, or do you think we should spend more time on this? Sujata ji, is it clear?
If you're looking at the mirror,
Yes.
you see yourself, even though there is two figures, but duality is, it's a Maya is that, but the oneness is with you. That is the one.
Correct. Thank you. Sujata ji, you were saying something?
Just one thing up. So when we say earlier, we discuss about spirit soul and super soul, right? Like they are part of the two birds part of the same tree, right? And is it similar to what is that what we are saying here?
Correct. It is all like, so Maya creates all these levels, but in the eternal truth is there is only one spirit. That is what the Westerners use the term singularity. They say there is only one. But then if the game of the universe has to go on, there has to be an illusion of separation. Otherwise, there can be no Rajesh, there can be no Suchita, there can be no Smita, no Ekansh. If there is no Ekansh, Smita, Suchita, then there is no universe. There is really nothing. There is nothing. You cannot have any drama. You can have no games, right? So if the drama of creation has to go on, we have to create. But the problem is, you cannot really have a Rajesh or a Sujata which is actually separate from the spirit. That is not possible, because then we are limiting the spirit. Because we defined spirit as infinite, all-encompassing. So technically it is impossible to create something which is separate from the spirit. So you have to create something which cannot be separate from the spirit, but looks separate, which has the illusion of being separate. And that is what Maya helps do. That is the job of Maya. It's a very challenging engineering technical job. Okay, so that is what Maya basically is. And so this concept is necessary to understand how everything we see, when we say it is all Maya, this is what it means. There is truth to it, but there is a reason for it as well. So the ancient texts, they describe Maya as a magical illusion. They say that it is like a cosmic measurer. And it is by Maya that the spirit appears to be divided into separate finite objects. It is such a daunting task, first of all, to comprehend what is infinity, and then to take infinity and cut it and divide it into finite many things. Is not easy. So that is why Maya is said to be so powerful, because Bhagavan himself has empowered Maya to comprehend. So first, Maya is closest to God. Maya understands God the best. Very, very, very profound. So there is a very beautiful another shloka in Chandogya Upanishad where it says, Sarvam Kalavidam Brahma. Means all this is indeed Brahma. The entire universe, everything, all the diversity, it is all in essence just the one spirit. So in the Isha Upanishad, there is this whole thing is conveyed very beautifully in 2 sentences. Some of you already have shared it with you. I think probably we discussed it in our Narayaniam session, but it's that shloka says, Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnartha Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. This is a very, very profound shloka. This mantra, it basically says that is perfect and complete. This is perfect and complete. From perfect, the perfect arises. When you take perfect from perfect, what remains is still perfect. So they are explaining this whole divine science of how the eternal, universal, infinite spirit projects itself onto so many different things which looks different and separate and all of that. Very, very beautiful. See, but Maya, this is a fundamental job of Maya. It is a job of an engineer. How to take that infinite and divide it into so many finite and separate looking entities. But there is another crucial role that Maya plays in the spiritual journey. What is that? It is Maya's job to drive us. It is Maya's job to push us in our lives. It is Maya's job to make us understand the nature of Maya so that we can go back to Godhead. So that we can understand. It is Maya's job to wake us up from our dream state and help us understand our true self. So Maya is both the creator and also the catalyst for our own spiritual awakening. That is why we have to understand Maya, because when we understand Maya, then we can begin to see the workings, we can begin to see the mechanism of the whole universe and how to overcome it. How can you overcome anything that you don't even understand? Yes, I'm going to go and clear my exams, but you don't even know what the subject is. So that is why it is important to spend some time understanding what this Maya is all about. Maya is not just some evil. Maya is not just some devil. Maya is, without Maya, there is no you, there is no me, there is no universe. So Maya has an important role to play. Okay, so I know that this all, for some people, this may all sound very exciting and interesting. Theoretically, there is a lot of meat here. But our goal is just to realize the truth, realize the mechanism, and we have to work hard to actually realize. It is not, the goal is not to just theorize. So theoretically, it may all sound interesting. We all are understanding now. We all have a good idea, but that is not sufficient. Self-realization means that aha moment where you can clearly see this is Maya, this is not Maya, and this is the true self. You realize it. That is the goal, ultimate goal of all spiritual progress. So, and that is what Krishna is doing here. So Krishna is saying, what do you have to do to advance and reach a state where you can have this realization? And Krishna is saying that is your ultimate goal. So Krishna says, I'll teach you all interesting things, fine. But at the end of the day, you have to put in the efforts. You have to put in the efforts to internalize that and use it to get this kind of realization. So he talks about focus, he talks about concentration, he talks about dedication, correct? So you remember the story of Arjuna and the bird's eye. That's a very wonderful story to help us understand this. So, so Dronacharya is arranging a test for his students. So he lines his best students, he forms a line of his best students, and then, he tells all of them, in that tree you see the bird, you are supposed to hit the eye of the bird. And then he's asking each person, okay, what do you see? So one person goes on a very elaborate explanation of, I see the mountain, I see the river, I see a tree, and I also see a bird. And like that, everybody has their own description of what all they see. And finally, when it comes to Arjuna, Arjuna says, I just see the eye of the bird. And Dronacharya is asking him, are you sure? Is that all you see? Arjuna says, yes, master. You told me the eye of the bird, and that is all I see now. So, and he is the one who can hit the eye in one go, because that is his level of dedication and focus. He can cut all the distraction away. So that is a lesson for us. Just like that, eventually when we go towards yuktaha, the mind goes towards yuktaha, those distractions should no longer matter. And all you should be able to see is that ultimate goal. You cannot reach a goal that you cannot see. Correct? So you have to first learn to see that is my goal. This is Maya. This is not what is not Maya. Understand all of that and understand what your goal is, and then you have to have one pointed focus, consistent focus and commitment. That is why that story is so important, because Arjuna's ability to see only the eye, that is a way of explaining the yogic practice that we have to follow, where our mind has to be focused primarily on that goal. This is what the concept of Dhyana is. So 6th chapter is about Dhyana Yoga. So when we say Dhyana, what we mean? This is Dhyana. So when you are progressing in Dhyana and Dharana, Dharana is concentration. So Dhyana and Dharana together makes us an Arjuna, where then we can have one pointed focus on where we want to reach. So now in the next few verses, Krishna will explain more on how to practice this kind of meditation to strengthen our mind. So with that, I think I can stop talking slowly. I hope this all makes sense. I will open the floor up for any comments or questions.
I wanted to.
Yes, Mitaji.
Yeah, I wanted to say something. When we were talking about Maya, Mahabharata, there is Mayasur, who is an architect, who has made the Indraprastha, when Pandava's Rajdhani was in, capital was Indraprastha, a very beautiful mahal was made by Mayasur. And it was like that when you look at some place, there is no water, but you see as if there is a water. So I kind of connected with that. So it was all Maya with which he played while he was making that mahal.
Very true.
In the fact, story was like that. Karna walked where there was water and he just lifted his dhoti, and Draupadi laughed at him. But the water was not there.
Duryodhana made the mistake, and Draupadi laughed at Duryodhana, and she made fun saying, blind father's son, so you are also blind, you cannot see.
Correct.
Yes.
So that Mayasur, and he made with Maya, he made the mahal, which was Mayavi.
It was exactly. So it's kind of a
same definition.
Yeah, it's a way of explaining how the world is. So that is why we have documented all these stories so beautifully, that things are not the way they seem, and we need to understand that. Very important to understand that. Like in the previous, somewhere we also had used the word Mriga Trishna, where that in a desert you feel like you are seeing water, but actually there is no water, but the deer doesn't understand that, and the deer is chasing that water, and eventually it dies of exhaustion because the water doesn't really exist. But we do the same thing because we think happiness means this, we think happiness means a new car, a new house, a new job, one more child or one more whatever, and we are running behind those illusions all our life, and that is the whole tatparya of those stories.
Sir, actually have to tell you the thing again, wo khali Mruga Trishna Mruga ke liye nahi hoti hai. When we were traveling in, maybe Dipali would know, when you are traveling in Gulf and there is a huge stretch of highway, suddenly you will feel as if the highway is full of water, but there is no water. It's all dry when you go closer. So Mruga Trishna actually happens, the illusion of eye. I think I'm getting away from the topic, but it's kind of Mayavi again.
Yes. So the point is, Maya is both required as well as it is a distraction. So the point is to understand what Maya is and then overcome it so that we reach our ultimate goal. So that is the whole point of this exercise. So thank you for sharing your thoughts, Mitaji. Beautiful.
Hare Krishna. Just I'm living now. Just feel.
Yes. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for your
Hare Krishna.
continued support and association. See you all in the next session.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Guruji.
Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.